Welcome back to the studio. Today I wanted to share with you guys all of my inspirations that I gathered from my recent trip to Tokyo. But more than that, on reflecting on this trip, I realized a few ways that I kind of approach traveling, especially when I have a shorter period of time. Like this trip was only 36-ish hours in Tokyo. So different ways that I approach a trip to kind of maximize and gather a lot of creative inspiration, even in a really short amount of time. The first one would be planning some time to aimlessly wander around. And it kind of sounds weird to plan to wander aimlessly, but what I mean is just like set aside a block of time, like maybe even 1 or 2 hours. And it doesn't have to be completely aimless, but the point is you want to kind of be able to wander here and there, follow the direction that most interests you, and kind of have the leisure to like stop in different places and check out things you normally wouldn't if you had a really strict itinerary of like, I want to go to this shop and this shop and this shop. For example, when I was in Tokyo, I had a couple hours to myself in between meetings and stuff that I had planned. And I basically wanted to escape the super busy area of Shibuya and go over to Ebisu, where there was a bookshop I wanted to check out. It was just really nice being able to wander through the streets, kind of take little detours, stop here and there. I was able to go into a couple like super random stores or kind of go one direction and then turn back. And that was maybe one of the most refreshing things that I did, just because I didn't have any expectations and my mind was like a lot more open to what was around me because I wasn't really focused on going to like a list of places. I even turned that little walk into a one-page zine. So you guys saw this little zine I made in the last video, which was all about exploring Tokyo in the rain, and it kind of tracks that little walk that I did. And I recommend just having a point A, a rough point B, which could be like a neighborhood, and just give yourself double the time to get there. So if your phone says it's going to take 30 minutes, give yourself an hour. I like just snapping photos on my phone and then turning them into little 1-hour zines like this. And that's kind of a nice way to arrange and codify your experience, your little wander. Another way that I like to kind of document my trip, besides these 1-hour zines, is journaling. Recently, I've been taking a class on how to restructure my journaling through Skillshare, and I've been applying that class to how I also process my creative inspiration and turn them into projects going forward. The 3 steps that they really emphasized through this class were recognizing, capturing, and processing. And through the walk, I feel like I was able to recognize and then capture those small little things that drew me in or stood out to me through taking little snapshots. I went ahead and I looked at the photos, the things that I captured that I didn't end up using in the zine and making into illustrations, and I wanted to process why I had taken those photos or what had stood out to me, but also why I didn't really feel drawn to illustrate them. So if you want to take that class or any other range of classes that are taught by professionals from illustration, design, photography, video production, you name it, you can go on Skillshare, and the first 500 people to click on the link in the description or use the QR code here can get 1 month of Skillshare for free and try it out. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The next thing that's really important to me when I go on a trip is connecting with other creative people. In Tokyo, I visited Handsaw Press, which is a really cool riso press. I met Fusan and Yoko-san there, and they were both really sweet. They gave me a tour of the press, and we talked about printmaking, running a studio, their zines and plans, and maybe even doing a little collaboration together in the future. I always admire people who kind of make an effort to reach out to studios or other creatives when they're traveling. And it's something that I've always been super receptive to when people come and visit us. It's something I've been trying to make more of an effort to do as well when I go somewhere. I also ran into my friend Dohi again. She also happened to be traveling in Tokyo at the same time, which is so funny. And some of Dohi's creative inspiration that she picked up were these vintage Olympic postcards and tickets and graphic design stuff at the Tokyo Flea Market. I didn't have enough time to visit, but it was really cool to see like what she had picked up. Going with friends or meeting up with other creative people, kind of their creative inspiration starts to rub off on you, and that can be one of the most interesting parts of traveling. Lastly, of course, there's visiting an exhibition or visiting an art bookstore. I did both of those things while on this trip, and they weren't super long visits because I didn't have a lot of time. I visited Post, which is a bookstore in Ebisu. I visited a Mina Perhonen exhibition in Daikanyama just because we were passing by. But even in those short little visits, I think that the way that you approach them is really important. So, for example, going to Post or any bookstore, I really like to look at, first of all, how the bookstore is laid out and how they kind of present their publications, how they group things together, like what's their specialty. Because the really nice thing about visiting small bookstores, and especially small art bookstores, is that the owners really have their own sense of curation and their own personal touches that they'll put into organizing the books. So I like to kind of see how things are structured more than like focusing really specifically on the publications themselves. One book that was really cool at Post is this book on the process of making a kite. I think I was drawn to the concept of taking a process and making that the art in and of itself. And I think they made the process of creating a kite really clear and legible, even without any kind of text or explanation. Again, it's a thing you can journal about or think about a bit more, but how are these items or these publications signaling to me the things that are important to me in my own work, or that I want to explore, or that I find interesting about the world? And I think that's a really useful perspective to take along with you when you travel. And the same applies to exhibitions. So at the Mina Perhonen exhibition, the thing that stood out to me the most was the organization of the exhibition. So basically, they had all of these different art pieces with all different medium. But then when you get to the end of the exhibition, because you see all of the clothes and like how those different little pieces of artwork had been translated into different embroidery designs and different kind of stitching and 3D realization in the clothing, then that all kind of came together. That was actually really effective. So yeah, those are two things that I learned from observing bookstores and exhibitions this time around. And I think going to any bookstore or exhibition with that kind of mindset, you'll find something a little different beyond like being inspired by the artwork itself. So to sum it up, that is how I like to travel as an artist and gather creative inspiration. If there's anything that stood out for you on your last trip, I'd love to hear what they are down below. And if you want any more content from my studio, kind of behind the scenes stuff, making zines here, printing, everything like that, you can always find me on Patreon when I'm not here on YouTube. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.